guys, welcome to today's class. Today we are going to see taxation under accountancy and bookkeeping. Right? Now first we will understand what is meant by tax. It is nothing but it is a revenue for the government, guys. See here, it's a compulsory financial charge or some other type of levy imposed on what? Taxpayer by whom? Governmental organization in order to fund what? Government spending and various public expenditures. It is very simple. We know that tax is nothing but it is there from our king's era. So what they'll do, the government will collect tax from the earnings of the people as a portion of their earnings, and they'll take that for the public expenditures. All right. The main aim is to redistribute the wealth accumulated by the people of the country. All right. Now we'll understand what is the objective. What are the objectives of taxation? See here, first one, to raise public revenue. Yes, because government has to take care many things, right? Social welfare has to be taken care. Government is providing free education, free hospital, free health services, everything they are giving, no? So for that, from where they will raise funds? One of their only source to raise funds, one of the source to raise fund is what? Taxation. So to raise public revenue, to remove inequalities of income and wealth. So by taxing, what we are trying to do over here? We are taking a portion of income from the people who are earning and we are redistributing it as a public expenditure to create a welfare in the society. So by doing it, what we are trying to do over here is we are trying to remove the inequality. Inequality means the difference between rich and the poor. At least everybody should get access to everything. All right. 3 meals a day, shelter or hospital or education, something like that. All right. So remove inequalities of income and wealth and to ensure economic stability. All right. How this will be there in our economics also we would have studied personal disposable income, because we have different types of taxes. For example, direct tax, if you take it, will, if you want to control the inflation, will increase the direct taxes because the income in the hands of the people will reduce, and then they since the income is reduced for consumption, then definitely the spending level will decrease. So if the spending level decreases, demand decreases, though obviously what will happen, and the prices also will go down. That is the a theory they'll follow, right? So to ensure what? Economic stability. If you take indirect taxes also, suppose government wanted to control price and all those things, they'll increase the indirect taxes or they'll decrease the indirect taxes. So to ensure economic stability, they use this taxation as a tool actually to reduce regional imbalances. Yes, this is from, say for example, if you see in direct taxes, they'll give certain exemptions, certain provisions, certain tax holidays if you set up certain industries in certain areas. Say for example, we have a section called 80IA, where if you are doing infrastructure facility, where you are indulged in infrastructure, where you are an associate engaged in infrastructure, then in that case you will be getting 10 years tax holidays. And say for example, there is some provision which says that if you set up industries in northeastern states or backward areas, notified backward areas, you are eligible to get tax holidays. All right, and there are certain provision which says you are eligible to claim extra deductions. All right, so why they are doing it? To reduce that regional imbalances, try to promote regional developments in various areas, try to promote regional developments. All right, so that to reduce regional imbalances, they use taxation as a tool to create employment opportunities. Yes. By getting the revenue, they can also start, they can also when you have funds, or when you have, every time the government cannot borrow and set up, correct? Every time they cannot borrow, every time they cannot borrow and invest, and they cannot create employment opportunities. All right, so they need certain revenues, they need certain things to what? Invest, to start. All right, to create the employment opportunities. And I'll tell you, it is not only just because for investment purpose they need revenue. It is not only revenue, guys. There are certain provisions. Say for example, under direct taxes, there is one section called 80JJAA. All right, 80JJAA. That section, what it tells is, suppose if you have increased headcounts, all right, you are an assessee, there are certain conditions, you have to satisfy certain conditions. And if you have more headcounts, if you have any new headcounts means you hired people, all right? Those people ka, those people ka expenses, those people ka salaries, you can claim it as a deduction. All right, you can claim it as a deduction. So what happens here? This serves as an incentive to the organization. This serves as an incentive to the companies, corporates to hire more people just because to save some taxes. Just because to say, they can save some, obviously saving taxes is a good thing for any company, right? So definitely it will create what? They'll add on the employment, they'll take on new people, they'll hire new people. All right, so it creates what? Employment opportunities. Next, to prevent harmful consumption. How this will help in, guys, understand? When you go to indirect taxes, especially for a few things, they'll charge high taxes. Why? Because they don't want people to consume to that extent. So that is the reason they'll charge high taxes to increase that price. So make sure that people is feeling that pinch of high prices. So at least by that they can prevent it. By that they can stop it or they can control themselves. All right. So to prevent harmful consumption, they use the taxation. All right. To divert resources beneficially, yes, that we know. To encourage exports, yes. If you see certain provisions in indirect taxes or direct taxes, it says that certain exports are exempted from tax. Certain things are available for person who engage in exports. So what happens here? Just to say, those people who do that such businesses, it serves an incentive for them to do all those things, to go for exports. Because of that, foreign exchange will improve in our nation. All right. Next one, to enhance the standard of living. To enhance standard of living, yes, this is again goes with your inequalities, removing inequalities. So these are all the objectives of taxation. Guys, understand, taxation is just not a revenue making tool for the government. It is a tool. It is a tool or for entire to for for adjusting the economic stability or for the entire economy. They use taxation as a tool, all right, for economic growth, to control the inflation, to control the money supply. So many things are there, guys. So they use taxation as a tool for all those things. It is not only revenue, it is also a tool for the government. All right. Now, what are the canons of good tax, or what makes our tax system good? So Adam Smith has given, it should be economical, equitable, convenient, and certain. Economical means, guys, to collect 100 rupees tax, you should not spend 120 rupees. It doesn't make any sense. All right. So that is called economical. All right. Economical means the collection of tax should be cheaper. All right. Second one, equitable. It should encourage equitable rather than it should encourage inequality. All right. Next, convenient. It should be easy for the government to collect tax rather than cumbersome. You cannot put so many things and where people will not understand what is happening. Even administration office will not understand what is happening. That is not a good taxation. And certain, how much you are going to pay. What is your liability? That you should know. All right. So that is called certain. According to Adam Smith, these four are the canons of a good tax system. All right. Next, it says that characteristics. So, what are the characteristics of good tax system? Based on the Adam Smith, we have developed a few other things. Equity, again, I told you, it should not encourage inequality. It should encourage which one? Equity. It should be based on the ability to pay. If I earn 100 rupees, I should be paying so much amount. If I earn 10,000 rupees, I should be paying so much amount. It should be based on my income, right? So, ability. Certainty, I should know how much I should pay. It is not that you pay around 200 rupees, 250 rupees. No, I should know how much I should pay and how I arrived that figure, why this figure has arrived, what are the provisions I applied. All right. So there should be certainty in the tax liability. Economy, I already told you, cost of collection should be low. For collecting 100 rupees, I should not spend 120 rupees or 150 rupees, which doesn't make sense only. All right. So it should be economical. All right. Next one, automatic stabilizer. This is what we studied in the objectives also. Alright, it should have what? A stabling effect on national income level. Guys, if we studied in our economics, we would have studied one concept called PDI, personal disposable income. There, tax plays a major role. Alright. Next, convenience, it should be easy to collect, and redistribution. The main thing is the government is collecting tax. Why? Because from the people who are able to pay more, from there I'll collect more and then I'll give it to the people who are not able to do that. All right. So it is a redistribution from I'm taking some wealth from you and I'm giving it to the another person. That's it. Next one, flexible. Yes, if you see every year budget, we are proposing new provisions, new amendments. All right. Why? Because it is flexible. We can change it according to the needs of the situations, according to the economic conditions. We will change it. Now, if you see in direct taxes, they have brought so many amendments. All right. Every year in the month of February, when we have that budget session, every year we'll have annual finance act. It will keep on giving new amendments, new provisions, because it is so flexible and it tells that according to the economic conditions it will give you what has to be followed. All right. And not to discourage work or investment. Yes, taxation should not discourage people not to work or people not to invest. All right, it should not be like that. If a tax is like that, then nobody will work, nobody will see. For example, 100 rupees if you earn, you have to pay 70 rupees tax means, then no, definitely nobody will have any idea to work and all, because I'm earning 100. Out of that 70 rupees, I'm giving to government 30 rupees. With 30 rupees, what will I do? Definitely nobody will be interested. So it should not discourage, rather, it should encourage. Right? Types of taxation we can see in the next slide, guys. These are the characteristics of good taxation. Right? Now, tax types, you have two major types, direct tax and indirect tax. Under direct tax, income tax, wealth tax, gift tax, and capital gain tax. Guys, understand, under direct tax, everything again will come under one tax called income tax. All right. And wealth tax has been abolished actually, but still it was there earlier. So I have given here. And here this capital gain tax is also form part of your income tax. So direct tax means basically it is nothing but income tax. Indirect taxes, if you see, VAT, octroi, service tax, customs duty. VAT means value added tax, service tax, octroi, customs duty. Guys, these are all earlier. Now we have GST. In that we had one more tax also, excise. Earlier we had excise. All right. Now if you see, we have GST. Under indirect tax, we have only GST and customs. All right. VAT, service tax, excise and all has been merged in GST, has been removed. All right. We'll see. These are all the earlier ones, but the major type is direct and indirect. All right. Now here I have given what are those recently. What are those there? Income tax, capital gain tax, security transaction tax, perquisite, corporate. Guys, understand everything again forming part of income tax. That is nothing but direct taxes. Indirect taxes, we have only two, GST and customs. That's it. As of now, we have GST and customs. And few products we have excise, and that also they are going to merge with GST very soon. All right. Now, other taxes, if you see, property tax, you might be knowing it, we will pay to the municipality. No, property tax. Professional tax means just because you got employed in certain state, you will be paying tax to that state. That is called professional tax. Entertainment tax, registration fees, stamp duty, that registrar tax is there, no, while buying a property. Education says forms part of direct and indirect tax, guys. Entry tax, road tax, toll road, all those things are charges, right? So these are all chota mota taxes, but main thing is direct and indirect. All right. Under direct, the main thing is income tax. Under indirect, we have two things, GST and customs. That's it. Now, we'll understand what is direct and indirect. First, direct means what? Guys, direct means it is earned on the income of a person. It is levied on the income of a person. The tax is collected on the income of a person. Right? Suppose if I earn 100 rupees, on that government will ask me to pay certain amount. That is called direct tax. Then what is meant by indirect tax? Guys, understand. Indirect tax means whether you earn or not, doesn't matter. But when you buy any goods or services, all right, on that goods or services, they will charge a certain percentage as tax. All right, it is included in the price. That is called indirect taxes. You might have seen it. When you go for a hotel restaurant, if you see the bill, after that bill, they will say CGST, SGST, 5%, 5%. CGST means central GST. SGST means state GST. IGST means integrated GST. All right. So indirect tax means it is charged on the goods and services, which is included in the price of that particular product or price of the particular services. That is called indirect. That is the difference between direct and indirect. Guys, even if I didn't earn a paisa, but if I buy a paste or if I buy a brush from a shop, I have to pay indirect tax. But direct tax will come into picture only when you earn. If you earn 100 rupees, if the government is willing to pay, then you will pay. You're getting it. So that is the difference between, that is the meaning of direct tax and indirect tax. So see here, direct tax is referred to as a tax which is paid by the person to the government to whom it is levied and charged on what? Income and wealth of a person. Here if you see, paid by the taxpayer to the government indirectly charged on goods and services. That is called indirect tax. Now, what is burden? Guys, understand, if I earn, I have to pay. It doesn't mean I can ask somebody else to pay. No. So the burden is on myself. All right. The incidence and burden is on the same person. That is a technical word we will use. Incidence and burden is on the same person. If I earn, I have to pay. All right. So the person on whom it is levied bears its burden. But here, indirect tax, what will happen? The burden of tax can be shifted to another person. How that can happen? Guys, understand. Suppose this is manufacturer. We will understand how goods are reaching to the final customer. All right. Manufacturer, wholesaler, retailer, and then it comes to the consumer, end consumer. Now, when he manufacture and suppose his cost of production is say 10 plus 2 rupees profit, so sale price is 12, on that he is charging 1 rupee tax he has to pay to the government. All right. Now 13 rupees. He will collect that 13 rupees from wholesaler. Correct? Now, the liability is on the manufacturer, but he is collecting from whom? Wholesaler. Now, wholesaler paid 13. He will give it to retailer at say for example at a profit of say 14 or 15 rupees. On that he may supposed to pay some taxes and he will collect. Now wholesaler is getting the tax from the retailer. Now his burden is also shifted. Now that retailer will sell it to the end consumer at the final prices. All right. Now retailer is also getting that tax from the end consumer. Correct? So he will say, sir, the product is 18 rupees plus 2 rupees tax, so total 20 rupees you have to pay. So you will pay 20 rupees to the retailer. So in all these three cases, if you see, these guys are shifting their what? Tax burden. Manufacturer is supposed to pay, he will pay and he will get the same from whom? Wholesaler. Wholesaler also will pay to the manufacturer and he will get the same thing from whom? Retailer. All right. And retailer also will pay to the wholesaler and then he will get the same thing from whom? End consumer. Correct. He will pay to whom? He will get it from whom? End consumer. Now, ma'am, who is the final thing? End consumer is the final person who he will be paying the taxes. That is why the burden of tax can be shifted to what? Another person. All right. So finally, end consumer only will pay what? The taxes. All right. Under which one? Indirect taxes. But where is direct taxes? Whatever manufacturer earn, he will only pay on his income. Whatever wholesaler has earned on his income, he will pay. Whatever retailer has earned on his profit, he will pay. End consumer, whatever his salary or income or whatever it is, on that he will pay. Are you getting the difference between direct and indirect taxes? I hope you understood the differences. All right. Now, types of direct tax, if you ask me, wealth, income tax, property, already we have seen all those things. Here, indirect taxes, earlier we had central sales tax, VAT, service tax, All those things we had. Now security transaction tax has again gone to direct tax, guys. Excise duty, customs duty. Now these are all not there. Now we have GST and customs duty. Right. Now evasion. What is mean by evasion? Evasion means not paying taxes. Actually, it is illegal. It is like a cheating. All right. In under direct tax, it is possible. Okay, under direct tax, tax evasion possible in the sense people are doing it and it is possible. All right, so tax evasion is possible under the indirect taxes, but indirect taxes, it is it is not that easy to do, because what happens, you have people in between now. So this fellow will collect from this fellow will collect from this fellow will collect from this fellow. So there is a checkpoint over here. All right. So tax evasion is hardly possible because it is included in the price of what? Goods and services, because you are not going to lose anything from your hand. Correct. So anyway, you will be collecting from the other person. So people will not, that evasion, comparative to direct tax, evasion is not that easy in indirect taxes. And inflation, what happens? Direct tax helps in reducing inflation. Whereas indirect tax, it promotes, because if I charge more taxes, the price of the commodity will increase. So if the price of the commodity increases, inflation will increase. Right? Next, on whom it is levied? Individual, HUF. There are various assessees. We call them as assessees, guys. So individual, HUF, company, firm, etc. All those people it is levied. Here it is levied on final taxpayer is whom? Consumers. All right. Nature is progressive. Direct tax is progressive. Indirect tax is regressive. What does mean by progressive? Guys, understand. Under direct taxes, you will pay tax on your income. So if you earn higher income, you will pay high taxes. All right. If you have lower income, you will pay low taxes. How that is possible? If you remember, or if you go and check, we have slab rates for income tax. See, 0.2, 0 to 2.5 lakhs, which means up to 2.5 lakhs, tax is 0. If your income is 2.5 lakhs to 5 lakhs, you will be paying 5% tax. If your income is 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, then you will be paying 20% tax. If it is more than 10 lakhs, means you will be paying 30% tax. Alright, so what is happening here? Up to 2 lakh 50, you are paying 0. Up to 2.5 to 5, you are paying only 5. And 5 lakh to 10 lakh, you are paying 20. And more than 10 lakhs, you are paying 30. See here, when your income increases, your rate of tax also increases. You're getting it? So this is called progressive. When your income increases, you will pay more. Alright, more tax. So that is called progressive taxation. But whereas indirect taxes, does it so, guys? No. If you go to hotel also, you will be paying 5% tax. If I go also, I'll be paying 5% tax. If anybody goes also, they'll be paying what? 5% tax. Correct? So it is not progressive, it is regressive. Irrespective of your income, everybody should pay the same tax, whomever it is. Even if a daily wage runner goes and buys vegetable, they have to pay that tax only. If they buy certain things from the grocery shop, they have to pay the same tax. Even if I or you or anybody who goes, the tax remains same. If it is 18%, means the tax remains same. Recently, the GST common percentage is 18%. And for restaurants, it is 5%. So it is common. Whomever you go, it is 5%. And whatever you purchase, it is 18%. Whether your income is 10,000, whether your income is 50,000, whether your income is 1 lakh, doesn't matter. You will be paying the same percentages. That is called regressive. So indirect tax is a form of regressive taxation. Direct tax is a form of progressive taxation. I hope you understood the difference, guys. Next, direct tax merits. See here, it is just and equitable because progressive. We are following which method? Progressive. And it is it helps in equitable. Equitable in the sense, you remember in the objectives and in these things we studied, no? It tries to get more tax from the people who earn more and tries to get less tax, and it tries to redistribute. All right, so that's why it is just and equitable, and it is progressive. If you earn more, you will be paying more. If you earn less, you will be paying less. That's it. All right. Next one, elastic. Yes, it has various tax slabs, and you can easily adjust All right. So it is easily adjustable, flexible to the economic conditions. So it is elastic. Next, it is productive, anti inflationary, and effective and certain. To some extent, it is certain and it is effective and it is anti inflationary. Anti inflationary, I already told you, direct taxes is a tool to control inflation. All right. That is the reason it is, we have given it as a merit. And when you call it as demerit, what and all you call it as a demerit is sometimes it is arbitrary. Arbitrary means we are talking about this progression. No, we don't know whether progression, what is the degree of progression. All right. Say for example, the slab rates is there only for whom means individual HUAF and AOPBY, certain assessors are there. Say for example, corporates and all, they will pay 30% flat. A partnership also they will pay 30% flat. All right. LLP, partnership, corporates, they'll pay 30% flat. All right. So what happens here? What is the degree of progression you are trying to make over there? That is not clear. So that's why direct taxes are arbitrary. We call that as arbitrary. And it is quite unpopular, means guys understand. When you pay indirectly, nobody will, know the burden of it. But when you ask them to pay from their pockets, definitely people won't be interested in paying those taxes. That's why it is quite not popular among the people. When you collect it as a price of the goods, nothing, there won't be any problem because anyway, okay, you have to pay for it, you will pay and you will get the product. But when I ask you to pay out of your earnings, means definitely you will have a question. I earned, I worked hard, why should I pay? Correct. So it is unpopular among the people. Inconvenient. Next one is inconvenient. Yes, this procedures or any notices comes, so it is not that easy under direct taxes. And evasion, already we have studied, evasion is quite possible under direct taxes. And of course, when compared to indirect taxes, the collection of taxes is uneconomical when it comes to direct taxes, because the collection charges are high. We have huge department, we have huge people working for that, and we are propagating so many things, we are issuing notices, and collection becomes very tiresome for the department, income tax department. All right. So sometimes it may go uneconomical. And narrow base. All right. So narrow base in the sense it covers only, um, guys, it is not easy to understand. First point, I won't say it is a narrow base. You can call that as, it has only 5 heads of income. Under direct taxes, we have only 5 heads of income. Under that 5 heads, people has to understand what and all has to come. So again, what happens? It leads to evasion. It leads to, they will not understand what has to be reported in their income, what not to be reported, nothing. So again, it says that it has only so much. So that is the reason we have given that as a demerit, narrow base. Next, it is a tax on honesty. Test your honesty over there. Whether are you reporting everything, whether have you shown whatever you want, that is a question over there. All right. So these are all the demerits of direct taxes. Next one, indirect tax, if you see. Merits, if you see, high revenue production, obviously, because you collect it from the goods and services. Every day people will be purchasing, every day people will be using any services, and on that they'll be paying taxes. And it is in bill only it is coming. So definitely you will have what? High revenue. And evasion is not that easy under indirect taxes. Convenient, economy, wide coverage, because it covers all the products, guys, and it is elasticity. Yes, elasticity means easily you can change it, easily you can, it is flexible for the economic conditions. All right, that's it. So these are all the merits. Demerits, if you see, regressive, that is the only problem, because who earns 1 lakh also they will pay 18%, who earns 10,000 also they will pay 18% tax. That is not fair, na? So it is regressive. And uncertainty in collection means, what does it mean? Guys, you just now we studied it is high revenue and no evasion, convenient. Yes, there are people who will collect the money but they'll not deposit to the government. All right, so that is also there, right? Next one, discourage savings. Yes, so indirect taxes, because when you increase the indirect taxes, you need more money to spend. When you need more money to spend, definitely your money available for savings will be reduced. Correct? So obviously people will not be interested in savings. So it discourages savings. Next, it increases inflation. We already seen that. Yes, because it is added to the price of the commodity. So when the price of the commodity is inflated by furthermore taxes, it increases the price. If price increases, inflation will increase. Correct? So these are all the demerits of indirect taxes. All right. Now, who are all the governing body of these guys? Now, understand, anyway, tax is coming under Ministry of Finance and it is called as Revenue Department, all right? And we have two bodies who take care of, this direct taxes and indirect taxes. CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. These are all the ruling body or governing body who comes under the Ministry of Finance. So for direct tax, it is CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. And for indirect taxes, it is Central Board of Indirect, Taxes and Customs. All right. So this is for customs and indirect taxes, guys. Now, if you see, it is for GST Council. We have one more thing that is called GST Council. Right. So these are all the governing bodies for direct taxes and indirect taxes. All right. Now, who will be collecting taxes or who has the right to collect taxes? You will see here. The Constitution I have given. So Article 265 says that no tax shall be levied or collected except by the authority of law. And 246 distributes legislative powers, including taxation between Parliament and the state legislature. So always there are two governments, now state and central. Who has the right to collect what? That is what is described in under Article 246. Now Schedule 7 enumerates powers under three lists. There are three lists always: union, legislative, concurrent. Union means central government, legislative means state government, and concurrent means both state and central government. Right? Now, what are all? I have given you certain examples only, guys. For central government has a right to collect what? Taxes on income, which means your direct tax there. Direct tax will be collected by only by central government, other than tax on agricultural income. Except agricultural income, all other incomes will be tax on all other incomes will be collected by central government. Customs, all right, customs duty. Excise, now excise on tobacco and other goods manufactured in India, except what? Alcoholic liquors for human consumption, opium, narcotic drugs. And again, this will be collected by whom? Central government. Corporation tax, interstate trade of goods. This is nothing but IGST. All right. Tax on interstate consignment of goods and any other matter not included in state list or concurrent list. All right. Now, state government, if you see, tax on agricultural income, excise duty on alcoholic liquors, opium and narcotics, entry tax, tax on intrastate trade of goods other than newspaper. Intrastate means, guys, within the state, local sales. That is SGST. All right. So SGST they are talking about. Tax on advertisements, tax on goods and passengers carried by what? Road and inland waterways, tax on professional. This is what professional taxes, trades, all right, callings and employment. You're getting it? So these are all collected by whom? State government. These taxes are examples of taxes collected only by whom? State government. And these are all the examples of taxes collected only by whom? Central government. And how many lists are there? Three lists are there: union, legislative and concurrent list. And then 246 says that who has the right to collect, which government has to collect taxes on what. All right, this is a constitution. Now timeline we will see. Direct tax is ruled by an act called Income Tax Act. It was passed in September 1961 and then came into operation in 1962. It is applicable to whole of India. And every year there will be an annual finance act passed in the budget session. All right, this is for income tax. Entire direct tax is controlled by Income Tax Act. All right. Next, for indirect taxes, if you see, there are two taxes as of now: customs and GST. Customs Act was passed in 1962 and customs tariff. Tariff means rate of taxes. That is passed in the year 1975. All right. What Customs Act will do? It is a duty or tariff imposed by law on imports and exports. And it is collected by whom? Central government. And again, it is applicable to whole of India. All right. It was introduced in the year 1962 and came into force in 1963 February. And rates were prescribed under the Act 1975. All right. So this is regarding Customs Act. And now if we see GST, it was long time. It took, from 2000, they were talking 15, 18 years after, then they passed in the year GST bill that was passed in the year 2016, and in 2017 it was implemented. All right, this is the timeline for whom? GST. GST, I think everybody knows, I believe. So it was passed recently, 2017. 2016 it came. It was passed in 2016 and it was implemented in the year 2017, and still now we are having what? GST. Right? And for this is under the control of GST Council. Right? I hope you guys understood about taxation, a broader view about taxation in India, guys. Thank you. I wish you all the best. Stay tuned to Olive Woods for more updates. Thank you, guys.